All right, today we're jumping into one of the most intense and foundational stories ever told. I mean, this is a narrative that has pushed the limits of what faith and obedience even mean for thousands of years. Let's get right into the incredible account of Abraham and his son Isaac. So the story kicks off with a command that is, well, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The text doesn't soften the blow at all. In fact, it hammers home the weight of it. Your son, your only son, whom you love. Just imagine hearing those words. It immediately sets the stage for a test that is beyond harrowing. And look, the source text is super clear about this from the get-go. This isn't some random, tragic event. The narrative straight up frames this as God directly testing Abraham. So the big question hanging over everything from the very first verse is, what is he going to do? Now, this doesn't get resolved quickly. What follows is a 3-day journey. 3 whole days for Abraham to travel with his son, all while knowing what he's been commanded to do. The text doesn't tell us what he's thinking, which somehow makes the silence of this trip feel even heavier. Can you imagine the weight of every single step? Okay, but this next part, this is where it gets really interesting. Right before he and Isaac go on alone, Abraham turns to his servants and says this. He says, "We will come back to you," plural. So what's going on here? Is this just a massive leap of faith, a genuine belief that somehow God's going to make a way for them both to return? It's a quiet but seriously powerful clue about his mindset. So that silent, tense journey, it's all building up to its most heart-wrenching moment. As they leave the servants behind, the silence is finally broken, and it's by this gut punch of an exchange between a father and his son. And there it is, the innocent, completely logical question from Isaac. He sees the fire, he sees the wood, he sees all the pieces for a sacrifice, except for the most important one. You can just feel how that question cuts right through all the tension and puts the unspoken horror of the situation right out in the open. And Abraham's answer? Wow. It's this incredible mix of, faith and maybe a bit of evasion. Is he just trying to shield his son from the awful truth? Or is he actually speaking a prophecy, something he truly believes is going to happen? Either way, that statement just hangs in the air as the two of them keep walking together toward the altar. So they finally get there, the place God had chosen. The journey is over, and now it's time. What happens next is just this sequence of slow, deliberate actions that ratchet the tension up to its absolute breaking point. Just look at these steps. Abraham doesn't rush. He builds an entire altar. He carefully arranges the wood. Then, he binds his own son and lays him on it. And finally, he reaches for the knife. Every single one of those actions is just loaded with an unimaginable gravity. And then, at the very last second, the absolute last possible moment, a voice from heaven just shatters the silence. The angel of the Lord calls out his name, stopping his hand right in midair. It's the huge, dramatic turning point of the whole story. It's done. The test is over. So, with the knife down and Isaac safe, we finally find out what this was all about. It was never really about the sacrifice itself, but about what the willingness to do it actually meant. The angel lays it out, plain and simple. Abraham has proven that he fears God, which in this context means he's shown the ultimate reverence, the deepest trust, in the most extreme way you possibly could. He didn't hold back the person he loved most in the world. His faith wasn't just talk, it was action. And you know what? Abraham was right. Just like he told Isaac, God did provide. Abraham looks over, and there's a ram caught in a bush. That ram becomes the offering. And to remember this moment, Abraham names the place Yahweh Yireh, which literally means the Lord will provide. His words came true. But the story doesn't just end with a sigh of relief. No, passing this insane test, it leads to something so much bigger. It leads to the reaffirmation of a powerful covenant, a solemn, binding promise that's going to shape everything that comes next. So check out this contrast. It's incredible. The test required the potential end of his family line through his one promised son. But the reward? It's a promise of a family so huge you can't even count them. This just brilliantly shows you the scale of both the sacrifice and the blessing. And this blessing, it's spelled out in amazing detail. We're not just talking about a big family. It's about prosperity, victory, and creating a legacy that will end up being a blessing for the whole world. And why does all this happen? The text points to one single reason: because you have obeyed me. So the climax is over, the promise is renewed, and life, well, it goes on. Abraham and his servants head back home, and they settle down in a place called Beersheba. The story moves forward, but you just know that what happened on that mountain changes everything. Now, as this chapter closes, the text gives us this little breadcrumb for the future. It's a quick family tree of Abraham's brother, and tucked away in there is the name Rebekah. This is a huge piece of foreshadowing, setting the stage for who Isaac, the son who is just saved, will eventually marry. And that's what we're left with, right? This massive question. The story shows us a single defining act of obedience that, according to the text, leads directly to a promise that shapes the destiny of nations for centuries. It really makes you think, how can one moment of faith have such a profound and lasting impact?